2, 1. You are on the air.
And we're back. Hey, Janie.
Hello there, Melanie. I am doing great. We are fast into this holiday season. I cannot believe we are almost at the end of the year.
I know. And today's guest is a very special treat to end Life Unscripted journey for 2018 as we take a slight pause going into the 2019 recordings. So I am so thrilled and excited to bring a modern day, what I call superhero creator. He calls himself the visual father. But if you have your little boy Rylan, I have Jonathan and Gabriel. And as you go through the stage, I watch movies, superhero movies, as part of my escape. So imagine my excitement when I came across, by the power of social media, none other than the visual father / creator of Loki and Baby Groot, and inspirations from parts of Black Panther characters and Dora Milaje. These are some kind of tongue twisters going on here. But all in all, we have none other than the person that drew these characters into existence for the big screen. And we're going to be I would say, Janie, the envy of all the listeners that are so diehard fans of some of these Marvel superhero movies, because we have the person that designed some of these characters. So I'm really excited about this as a holiday / Christmas treat to our fellow listeners.
I just think that is just awesome, and to be able to educate some of our viewers and our listeners to what happens behind the scenes of the movies that we see and what goes into creating some of these characters. So we are honored to have you, Anthony, and just to tell you a little bit about where we're going on this journey today. Life Unscripted is about helping people understand people's breakdown to their breakthrough and some of the limited beliefs around some of the things that can hold us captive in our life. So we are looking forward to hearing your story as to how you become the Anthony who we're looking at today, so that we can help all of our viewers and all of our listeners be able to do and to be all that they were created to be. Isn't that right, Melanie?
Absolutely. And this is special and near dear to my heart because Anthony Francisco actually hails from the Philippines. So we're going to start our journey from there because Anthony has such a powerful story. And I believe I saw some of the video clips. But Anthony, allow yourself to introduce and tell us your grassroots from the Philippines of how this all started.
Hello, guys. Thank you again for having me here. And just to correct one thing, just at Comic-Con, someone dubbed me as the visual father, Baby Groot. Just so I'm not the visual father, but just the visual father, Baby Groot. Just making sure that that's known. So at least because art is such a close thing for me. Like growing up, I just kept on drawing since I was 5 years old, and in the Philippines, I couldn't even really draw well, but it's just I wanted to put my ideas onto paper in my imagination. Ever since I was younger, I already collected Marvel. Well, I didn't collect the comic books, but I drew a lot of Marvel characters. So yeah, in the Philippines, I almost didn't make it here to the United States because I was almost 18 at the time, and I think the cutoff date for the when you're petitioned to come to the United States is 21 or 18. I'm not sure, but it was scary. I almost didn't get here. Yeah, so finally getting here, it was Melody, you were just talking to me earlier about how Filipinos want their kids to make sure they have financial kind of cover the financial side of stuff. So you want to be in nursing or maybe a dentist, that kind of stuff. So I almost kind of did the same thing where my sister actually and I went to a 9-month vocational course on that kind of stuff. So I was going to try to be a physical therapist.
Right.
That was the thing I was going to do. But as I was there, I in the Philippines, I had already gone to UST when I was 15 for college, and I went to University of Santo Tomas on architecture, fine arts.
Right.
So I had that little card with me that just to prove that I went to school there for college already. I guess to show my SAT scores or something like that. But when I read that, when she read it back to me, the counselor, architecture, fine arts, and I was like, yeah, what am I doing here? That's what I should be doing, art, you know. So so that's the beginning of me deciding that, hey, maybe I just pursue what I love to do instead of doing what someone else wants me to do.
So
So, yeah.
Janie, this is your realm of expertise here. So in our culture, right, we have this and again, this is generational. Well, there's a certain set of expectations. We're going to land in the following career fields because most of those that are in our family lineage did come from that same lineage. So what do you have to say about that?
No, Anthony, I certainly appreciate you sharing that because a lot of people don't understand who they're meant to be. And so we will let other people dictate who we should be. And that includes our family, that includes our culture and our family and our friends. But until we get to that place of really understanding who we are and we dig deep, then that's where we actually find our passion. So you being able to share that and kind of going down that path and understanding this art, you know, just hearing that and kind of waking up and saying, this is what's that for me. But that's not always an easy journey for people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and having that, getting disconnected from all my friends in the Philippines and coming here and just that depression, you're sad, you know, coming here. So it's almost like a opening to be manipulated, I guess the word, I don't know, to what they feel like this is safer to do. And I think I was also really young, and I don't know if it's because of being a boy or having that delusional fearlessness. I don't know if that was it, but I think scientifically the guys are usually fearless at a certain age because they have to defend the group, right? So that's why we die sooner than you know, in the tribe, right? Because the women have to be the ones that have to take care of the kids and stuff like that. But that's not the case now. But I don't know if that's a mental. It's weird. I'm going into these things I've researched before, like the chemical balances in your brain that make you act a certain way, and sometimes fear make you act really defensive and just go with what's safe. And I don't know if I was really clear with what I wanted to do, but was able to act on it at that moment. And I'm trying to explain that to some of my students. When I teach art, sorry, I have some noise going on here. There's some construction going on here. Sorry. But I think I was able to. I'm not able. I can't really explain how I was able to push myself to do art. I think it's just because I wanted to take that chance, I guess. Also a pride thing. Maybe that's what it was. I just want to make sure they know that I can do it and I don't have to. If I'm going to make a mistake with my future, I want to be the reason why instead of someone deciding for me and then I blame them later, you know? So
no, you said it exactly. And what I heard you say is, you know, when you came to the States, you were in this vulnerable position because you can easily be manipulated and oppressed upon because now you're in this new land trying to figure out your way. But there was something inside of you that knew that this was a path that I should go, and you took a risk. And from what I understand, most people that find themselves in that art space, it's because there's creativity inside them. They fantasize, they use a lot of different things that are inside of them to help them cope with stress and all the different things in life. So I would imagine, you know, coming to the States, as you mentioned, being depressed and missing your friends and those families and grieving them is a huge part of it. So I would imagine there was also part of escapism in that, is to fantasize and to think about things. But then you also talk about being a male and a man, and the fight or flight response in the brain says, I'm going to take risks because I have to savage. I got to be a savage. I got to be able to eat, you know, so to speak. So, I mean, I think a lot of people can relate with that. But the challenge for some people is that they're, to your point, are afraid to take that risk. They can say, okay, this is really what I want to do. So I have the safe option, or I have the risk where I don't know where it's going to come, what's going to come as a result of that. So I appreciate that, because I think a lot more people, if we took risk and went for what we really wanted to do, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, definitely. I believe that. And it's better for you to have these failures or these mistakes to learn from than to not even try at all. You know, I love playing basketball, and attempts made, you know, you want to have a lot of attempts made. Eventually you'll get something good.
Exactly.
It's just timing sometimes.
And you're
But,
right, it's timing.
There's an interesting thing that happened to me on Facebook recently, a discussion when one guy was saying that it's easy for you to say work hard and you'll get to where you want to go, but sometimes some people just don't have the means for doing it. And but then when you think about some of the richer kids that have the means, but they end up not making it. So I had to explain to this guy that it's not for sure, even if you have the means, it really depends on you. You know, it's I don't know if it's a random thing, but whether you're rich or poor, you can all go down the wrong path, or you can go down the right path. So that was a really interesting one. In the end, he understood what I was saying and kind of apologized in a way.
No,
So,
Anthony, you just made a huge golden nugget point there, because this is what it is. You know, as a business owner myself, when we don't have the means, or we come from humble beginnings, the risk, we have so much more at risk that we're taking versus people that have resources. If they fall, they're not necessarily going to fall, because there's going to be someone that catches them, they can get back up. But for people like us, we have to be savage, because there's no, once we fall, I mean, for us, it's like death, right? So you put all you have into it. So I appreciate that, because I think a lot of people don't understand the difference. They think of that point exactly. People have resources, they're able to better do things. But sometimes when you have that motive and that drive, and it's kind of like a life or death mentality for you, you have a different risk, you know, and that
definitely.
And that to thinking about, like, could you help us kind of understand what it took to create these characters? You had these humble beginnings, you came to the United States, you took some risk. So could you share us a little bit about the thought process behind the creation of these characters and some of your breakthroughs to get to Marvel?
Well, it took 18 years to get to Marvel. It's like the road to Infinity War took that long. But the funny thing is, in the beginning, I didn't even, in my career, I didn't even draw superheroes, because I was so into horror movies when I was younger. When in the Philippines, the first time we had a Betamax cassette tape, right? And we rented it, and I just watched a lot of horror films and fantasy films, even though it scared me. It felt really good to be scared. I don't know why, but that was really fun. So I think because of the movies I've watched, that has helped me develop a vocabulary of a lot of different things. Plus, I love watching the History Channel and, you know, Animal Channels and stuff. And that just builds more with in my imagination to make the fantasy characters feel more real. So that's where I pull from things I've already watched. So in the beginning, I would just design creatures and horror characters. So to try to answer your question, how do I do it? I don't know. I guess it just comes. First, I had to make sure my illustration skills, craftsmanship is good enough to be able to put down on paper what's on my mind. And how to get inspired through what's on your mind is through the things I've seen already around me, and putting story into the characters I develop and create. And how do you do the story? It's same thing, watching the Animal Channel or reading a lot of books to know how the life cycle of animals are, and then even people, right? You listen to people's stories, their biographies, and try to capture some of that and put that into your story. So it's not like I'm creating anything new. It's just I'm just remixing stuff that's already there. I guess that's how you say it.
Mhm.
You know,
Was that what?
allow me to jump in here for a second because
Yes.
when I'm watching that video, Janie, that's been viewed over 4 million times now,
That's awesome.
which is just, it has gone epidemically just crazy out there on the life of Anthony
I
and
was
the
surprised. It's
character.
crazy.
Your head must be exploding when you think about
I,
that.
I didn't know that it was that much until the director, Ryan Moore, he's also Filipino, by the way, the
Oh,
director.
look at that.
Yeah. When he heard my story, he decided to, like, he thought people should know about me. So I owe it to him, to have that video out. So he set a time, and then we did it in a day, and then that came out. And he's the one who told me, he called me, hey, our video, got to 2 million views. And it's like, what? Could be interested.
So part of that video that really that touched me, you said you found inspirations through documentaries, but the one thing that video really highlighted, Janie, and you love this, as part of the character movements for Baby Groot was actually inspired by his own children. So he was observing, there's a video comparison of how his kids moved, right, to how Baby Groot was actually moving in that movie, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mhm.
So it was just beautiful to watch the mirroring of movements and characters of Baby Groot as a child that is in real life. His inspiration is his children.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. My son at 4 was like the right body type for Baby Groot. So I should just use him. It was a bit difficult trying to find a design because a toddler proportions didn't match what Baby Groot had to do. Baby Groot had to dance, and the balance of a toddler would have like a bigger head. But then I remember my son at 2, he could like do a lot of athletic things already. So, and even my daughter was pretty athletic. So both of them I used to try to fuse them together into this little twig character.
That goes back to you saying just being able to look around and using your environment and people right there as your inspiration. I mean,
Yeah.
way to be inspired.
And it's really close to my heart because it's what really pushed it was, my connection with them and how I love kids, and my kids especially, but observing the human body, that kind of stuff from years of practicing. But the emotional connections is really good. I just looking at him, up on screen, it just feels like, wow, that's like my son. Up there.
Literally.
And I was also exchanging with Anthony here. So Black Panther becomes an international hit of a movie. And it's just amazing cinematography, character, designs. And I was sharing with him, it was very interesting because there were parts of the movie with the warrior queens, as I call them, right, that I kept looking at this and I'm like, why does this feel so familiar? Why does it even look familiar? I've never seen this movie before, right? And I never followed the comic book for Black Panther. Yet on the big screen, I said, there's something familiar. So when I watched a video of Anthony and his life, that we were talking about, it hit me. I'm like, that's why it looks so familiar. So Janie, here's a surprise for fellow folks that are following Wakanda, is there's actually a Philippine-infused culture in this movie because part of the costume designs were actually stemming from his inspiration of the Ifugao, which is a cultural tribe in the Philippines, and the costumes were basically identical to what was on the screen. So I had a good hearty laugh about that because here we are, we talk about modern day influences, right, Janie and Anthony, that you still have your grassroots culture influencing that takes off in a big screen. And for me, who has not been home to the Philippines since 1986, offers that familiarity. And I couldn't pinpoint it. I'm like, I've seen this before, but I just couldn't quite place it. And then seeing the documentary about Anthony, and I went, that's what it was.
Well, that's what's nice about being a concept artist. You get to infuse different things you like into one design. So I've always liked African designs and tribal work already for a long time, even in the Philippines. I explained in one of the BuzzFeed articles that my friend did. She when she interviewed me about that, I realized, oh, this is when I was just talking and letting out where my inspirations came from. Then that's when I realized that I infused a lot of tribal designs across like the world, because I looked at not only African, but I looked at Native Americans and Inuit tribes and South American
Mm-hmm.
tribes too. I forgot, from Machu Picchu, kind of like
Mm-hmm.
those
Correct.
clothing too. And when you look at it all, you find a commonality between all of them. And then I wanted a very like iconic look for a warrior. And usually, what people are kind of used to that got popular was the samurais, right? The samurai way of how the armor is built. So I kind of had that as the cup, right? Pour the water in that cup.
Mm-hmm.
So the cup is the samurai armor, um, like layering design with the aesthetics of African and some a little bit of the Filipino and a little bit of Native American, and making it feel more modernized. So I want to put out a video once later on, I guess next year, where I could show step by step how I designed the Dor Milaje. You know, that I think that
That's
would be cool to
awesome.
show exactly which pieces influence, you know, which culture influenced what. But overall, since I've been using the African, um, it, I'm trying to remember the actual name, because I really love the way the corset was. It's called um, oh my god, how can I forget now? It's not the Maasai. The Maasai is what most people know, but it's the Nabili tribe.
Oh,
That's
that's
what Nabili tribe was also a big influence to that. So
amazing.
I've been designing this kind of idea for a long time, for
Mhm.
game design, for some other characters in film, but they're always being rejected. So I've designed it so many. So once this came to me, and I was like, oh, I have this chance to use this idea I've always had, and when I put it in there, Ryan Coogler really liked it. So I think it was a development from all those experiences before to put it all together for this one. So I'm so happy he liked it.
So
So
you
thanks,
said a
Ryan
very
Coogler.
powerful you said a very powerful word there, rejection, right? We face a lot of rejections in our road to perdition, our road to absolution, or our road to destination, as I call it,
Yeah.
right? So what has been, as we come, closer to the end of this podcast, what has been, the biggest challenge that you have faced so far in trying to attain what I would say your dream job right now, or where you're currently at?
Um, yeah, I think all those years were a challenge. It was just um, like you're swimming against the waves, right? And sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down, and you just have to know that it's a pattern. I think that's how I saw it. It's good, and there'll be good times, there'll be bad times, there'll be good times and bad times. And accepting that that's what will happen, I think makes it a little bit easier to go through things. But sometimes the waves could be really big and really difficult. Um, uh, wow, and I'm going back to everything that's happened, and but at the same time, I would say it's not um, it's not always gonna be hard. Wow, this is so hard to explain. But throughout it all, I think what I learned is that I just have to be kind to everyone that I come across, and that doing that and just but that's me, who I am. I try to see how it is within other people's shoes and try to understand them, be empathetic, and say sorry when I make a mistake. And if I made the mistake, to learn from the mistakes. I think that's the through line throughout the 18 years of my career. Just keeping that in mind, and I think by doing that, I made a lot of friends along the way, and those friends helped me out with my shortcomings, and hopefully I helped them uh, also be better people. And my really close friends, like the ones that are there throughout the career, and the new friends that come by. But my wife's been there for since the beginning, so she helps me a lot throughout the whole. So you need someone like that. I feel you can't go through it alone. So
Absolutely, Anthony. I mean, you are just giving us some nuggets and you don't realize it. So what you're talking about is emotional intelligence. It's to be able to be humble, take responsibility, and to be able to understand that connectivity and relationships are so important, right? Because stuff and things, we're not bringing that with us to the grave. It's going to be, what are people going to say about us, and the people that are closest to us that know us well. So, I can just tell you are such a humble and an honoring individual, and I commend you just for getting that right, especially because one of the things that's having, I have a 6-year-old son. I heard you also have a children. So when we have our children, we're also looking back, okay, as they hit different stages, we're looking at lessons along the way that we've learned, that we want to impart in them, that we don't want to make the same mistakes. So when you think about, for some of our listeners and viewers, the 3 biggest lessons that Anthony has learned in his life that continue on his journey of growth and keeping himself humble and honoring and all the things that we're hearing from you, what would you tell us? I mean, what are those 3 lessons that people would want to know about you, so that we can also be inspired from your story?
Well, 3 lessons. I guess number 1 would be the kindness, to be nice to everyone. It's not just because you want them to be nice back to you, but it's because it just feels good to be kind to people. And when my kids they're growing really fast, and sometimes I get afraid of, I don't even know how I went through that. I survived till I didn't die along the way, because 92, when I first got here, that was when the height of the gang stuff was happening. And but in terms of career, and just because I would say being more courageous and meeting more people, maybe, and always be exercising. I guess that would help you be in a better physical state. So it's maybe that helps you be braver. I heard the chemicals that it produces when you exercise, or something like that. There's even science to it now.
Yes.
Wow. Now that I thought about this, the 3 things that I could impart to people, but because I could just say, be brave. Don't waste your time. Right? Time is limited. We just have one life, and be able to push yourself to go out and do your passion. But what is that exactly, your passion? It's almost, I have to sit down and jot down exactly how to get there. Maybe next time I'll try to do something like that. But I don't even have 3 things. Kindness, almost like after you do that, everything else kind of goes into place. Because you meet the right people when you're kind, and later on they'll think about you, and maybe they'll hire you for a job. Because they know they can work with you, because you have no ego, and you're open to other people's opinions, and you listen, you're tolerant, and not to I know it all. Even if you know the answer, you still have to listen and see if the person can contribute to the idea. And that's what working at a team at Marvel Studios, our team is one of the best teams I love working with, because we are all open-minded. No one has an ego, and everyone is at the top of doing their games. So, and to be in a place that's like that, and everyone's still very open with ideas, it's dream job.
That is definitely a dream workplace. So to just bring this to a close, Anthony, you said, you really stuck to the word kindness. So one of my favorite quotes that I do my best to live by is from Maya Angelou. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she said, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and that act of kindness will bring the alignment that Janie and I are experiencing this journey as well, brings the alignment of the right people stepping into your life. And how you make them feel further is a better even credential, because it talks, kindness bleeds to integrity. Kindness brings to respect and truth. And how you make them feel in those realms will be the keys that would unlock those further access. Isn't that right, Janie?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So,
That's the nice way of saying it for sure. Kindness is the key that unlocks all the other things.
yes, kindness is the key that unlocks favors, right? And what a perfectly timed podcast as we air this during the Christmas time, holiday
Yes.
time around the world. At the end of it, it's kindness that speaks through currencies and through cultures around the world. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, whether you're inspired from different cultures, going back to Anthony's creations or your own family, right? Within proximity or friendship, it is in kindness. That's how we all connected in this podcast, right?
It takes courage to be kind too. Some people are not. Yeah, some people think, oh, if I'm kind to this person, then what if they don't show kindness back? That's another fear people would have, and just don't ask anything in return. Just be kind. It's its own reward in a way. People won't understand that until they're actually doing it more.
That's very true. So,
But
Janie, Janie, well, Anthony, we thank you so much for your time with us. I know it's early in California, and over here we're in Orlando, Florida. At any given time you find yourself in the space of Orlando, please feel free to reach out to me and Janie over here, and we'd love to connect with you on a personal, one-to-one level. And Janie, any last words as we close this year?
Absolutely. Anthony, I am just so impressed with you, because kindness is one of the things I'd want to say is that we all want to be kind, but we have stereotypes around kindness, around myths, right? Kindness does not mean people are going to walk all over us. It doesn't mean they're going to take advantage of us. That means that we know who we are, which is why we're able to be kind, because to what I'm experiencing from you, your humility and your humbleness and you being honoring of other people can generate that kindness from an authentic space. So this season, this Christmas season, we want our viewers to consider that kindness is not about people walking all over you or taking advantage of you. When you know who you are, you can extend that kindness and that grace because you also know who you are, so you have boundaries. So it has just been a phenomenal conversation with you, Anthony, and I hope that all of our viewers and listeners glean from taking some of your nuggets and learning to be kind, being courageous, taking risk, understanding what brings you inspiration. And sometimes we can just look right around our environment, Melanie, and I think this messages today that he shared with us was just so powerful. And we just want to thank you so much for your time and your energy and your authentic expressions today and your vulnerability and sharing us with your journey. So we look forward to seeing what God has for you in the future, and we know it's going to be great.
And just his humility for those that will be watching this video down the road, you can see the evidence of the humility that is in his character that's coming through the cameras, that despite the successes he has achieved of making a name for himself around the world. 4 million views is nothing to laugh at all. So we are so gracious for your time with us this morning. And as we close this, how we say it in the Philippines is Maligayang Pasko, which means Merry Christmas, at Manigong Bagong Taon, which means Happy New Year. So from Life Unscripted podcast, we wish you safe blessings in this holiday, to be kind to one another, because there's a lot of people that needs that kindness, and they're waiting for you to step up into the role of kindness. So we wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. This is Melody Garcia.
And this is Janie Lacey, and Feliz Navidad from Puerto Rico. Until next time.
See you in 2019.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.